Hello everyone, this is Michael Sliwinski with Proactive Magazine, today together with Mr. Brian Tracy, and privileged to be able to talk to you today about productivity and about life and about love for work, right?
Thank you. Well, it's a pleasure to be with you, and the ideas that they teach about productivity determine the entire quality of your life, so it's a pleasure to be able to contribute something.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you so much.
It's very much the same as being a good singer. If you're a good singer and you spend your whole life developing your singing ability, I just read an article yesterday about Petula Clark. And you may not remember her, but she's in the 60s and 70s. She was equal to the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and so on. And I really liked her. And since then I bought her album, The Best of Petula Clark. She's 30, 40 years old. She's 81 years old now. And she is back in the studios in Hollywood recording a new album. And the experts are saying this is as good as anything she's ever done at the age of 81. And they asked her the same question. She says she just loves to sing. And she's got a great voice. She's a perfectionist. And so why would you stop? And I love to speak. And I'm very good at it. And if you love to do something and you're very good at it, and also you're paid well, why would you not do it? Why would you stop? I cannot imagine sitting at home. But the whole idea of retirement was invented in 1870 by Bismarck. And he set retirement as 65, when the average lifespan of the average German was 50 years old. And it was a wonderful political, he was the purest politician, one of the greatest politicians. It was an incredible vote-buying idea that we, the government, would actually allow you to retire at the age of 65. But virtually nobody ever made it. And then in the U.S., when they were desperate for votes, they came up with Social Security. They said, what age should we pick? They said, well, Bismarck picked 65, let's pick 65, because the average lifespan, the average American at that time was 52 to 54 years. We'll be able to collect taxes, we'll get voted back into office, we'll never have to pay anything out, and they never occurred to them that the lifespan would increase. As now all Western countries are bankrupt because they have Social Security obligations that are far beyond the total gross national product of their countries. And what they did is they took the money in and they just spent it. My point though is this, is because of increasing lifespans, 75 is the new 65 or 65 whatever. So if you're 75, you're really only 65 in terms of chronological physical age. When Social Security was introduced, most people worked at laboring jobs, and they were like pieces of machinery that wore out and had to be taken off the line, put out in the field. And the average lifespan was 2 years and 7 months. After you retired, you lived 2 years and 7 months. Now people are living 20 years. So the point is that if you're working physically, this is my point, if you're working physically, you look forward to retirement so you can stop working. It's almost like if you're working in a field, you're looking forward to the end of the day so you can stop working and rest. But if you're working with your minds, as we are, you never want to stop because you're continually learning new things, you're getting better, you enjoy it, you're active, you're healthier, you have more energy, you're stronger. So people who work with their minds never want to quit. They never want to stop working because they're not worn out. They're motivated by doing what they do. They want to do it differently and maybe do less of it, but they don't want to stop. This is based on years and years of research, and it can be condensed. First of all, you have to set big goals for yourself, and you have to put aside all the negativity in your life that tells you that because you came from a certain education or a certain family background, you can't achieve big goals. That's one of the things that America has. In America, part of the DNA is you could achieve anything. It doesn't matter where you came from. It doesn't matter how poor you were. It doesn't matter where your family was. You can achieve anything if you have really clear goals and you work really hard to learn what you need to learn. So I always say there's two things to be successful. First, decide exactly what you want, think your goals, and then determine how you'll achieve them. What skills will you have to learn? What work will you have to do? What actions will you have to take? And these are totally under your control. These do not depend upon anyone else. So I would say to Finnish people, as I said to people worldwide, learn how to set goals, make plans for your goals, and then just work on them every day. And you automatically become more positive. When you care about what you want and you're working toward it every day, it's like working out physically in a gym. You become healthier and healthier physically. When you work towards your goals every day, you become healthier and healthier mentally. It's very hard to do with a negative attitude. You just become more and more positive, and then you start to succeed. And starting to succeed is like winning a race and having the audience cheer. It makes you feel happy and motivates you to work even harder, to achieve even more. So you can get onto an upward spiral, or you can stay flat, or you can get onto a downward spiral.
Referring back to what you said about loving your work, I mean, I can totally relate to that. But I can also relate to the fact that when you love your work and you love your family, there are two things that you love.
Yes.
So what would be your advice for people? I mean, with your experience, how do you combine these two loves? Because sometimes you can be pulled back by one of them to too much love your company,
yes.
and then too much love your family, and then neglect one another. How would you approach this?
It's a great question. I do a whole seminar on this, on balance between your family and work. First of all, you have to work very hard to be successful. Anybody who tells you that you can, have lots of fun at work and have balance and have your personal life is a mediocre person who will never accomplish very much. And what they'll do is they'll surround themselves with other people, and they'll say this to other people. You should be able to have lots of balance and lots of fun and everything else. But you'll never make enough money, much more than enough to survive. To be successful, you have to really work hard. And every study in 50 years says that successful people say, I'm no smarter than anybody else. I was just willing to work harder and longer. I was willing to get started and to stay started. And so a question I ask is, a tightrope walker, how often does a tightrope walker balance when they're walking across a tightrope?
Yeah.
How often do they balance?
I don't know.
All the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Of course.
Right.
It's the same thing. If you really want to have a successful career and you want to have a happy home life, it's just a matter of balancing it.
All the time.
And always finding different ways and discussing it with your spouse and children and going on vacations and having times where you work hard and times where you play, but it's never ending.
But I really liked your example in the seminar, where you said that whenever your family will talk to you, or your wife or your children, you just put the things aside.
Yes, stop.
It was really, really great. It's really struck a nerve here.
One of the great rules, which I teach all the time, is leave things off. Turn them off. Turn off the phone. Turn off the computer. Turn off the TV. Turn off all the noise. Never have your radio on when you're traveling with your family in the car or a family member. My kids have known that. They're now 32. They've known that when you get into the car, there's never anything on. So what happens in the car is it fills with conversation.
Right.
If you sit in your living room with your spouse and the television is on, you start talking.
Yeah.
If you're kids, you start talking. And the richness of your relationships comes from communicating. There's no other way to build great relationships except to spend time together with things off. And that's why people who are starting to practice this are astonished, whether they're executives or parents, they're astonished at the difference in the quality of their lives just when they leave things off.
Right.
It seems so simple.
Yeah, it is.
But it is a great principle.
I would like to relate again to what we said today in the morning. You said about this rule 10 by 10, right? 10 by 10.
Right.
It reminds me of your book, Eat That Frog, which I really loved. So the principle over there was that to make the most important things and the most difficult things first. Yes. First thing in the morning, right?
Yes.
Why is that important? Why is it so important?
Well, because it starts the day off productively. And if you start off the day productively, it moves you to a higher level mentally, and you're at that higher level all day long.
Okay.
You think faster, your mind works quicker, you're more personable. It's called the zone.
Yeah.
You get into the zone. Sometimes they call it flow. Or optimal performance.
Yes.
Is you actually kick yourself into a high zone by finishing an important task first thing in the morning, and you're at that level all day long. And the whole quality of your day is superior. If you start off checking your email and reading the newspaper, everything else, which we all do, unfortunately, you start off at a low level and you very seldom get up again.
In fact, what you said today also in the morning is about the focus on what you can control, and you can control the process. You may not always control the outcome,
right,
but control the process, right?
Thank you. Yes, you can control the activities.
Exactly.
This is people want to write a book. 82% of adults want to write a book. It's the biggest single demographic in the world. Everybody believes that they have a book about themselves or about their area of interest and so on. And yet only 1 or 2% will ever write a book.
Yeah.
Why? It's because they just don't learn the process of writing. The process of writing a book is like the process of preparing a dinner at home. Several dishes, ingredients, and so on. So I began teaching. First of all, I write 4 books a year. Last year I wrote, and these are all published by major publishers worldwide in multiple languages. And so people say, and many people dream of publishing one book.
Right.
I have a good friend who his whole life he's been wanting to write a book and working on a book and never got the book done. And that's 40 years he's been working on the book. And why? Because he didn't have a system. So I teach the system, and now I have people write to me and send me books. I say, you follow the system, you'll have your book in 90 days. It'll be in your hand, and maybe even published. And I'm now starting to come back from everybody saying, it's incredible. It's like a recipe. You just follow the recipe for writing and publishing a book. Since there's so many millions of books written and published, obviously there's some system.
I traveled here, and when I was packing, I was sure I had everything, but then I ran through my checklist, and then one very important item was missing, and I just didn't take it because I was sure that I had everything.
And if you haven't read this book, it's called The Checklist Manifesto. He shows how this occurs over and over in hospital emergency departments where one item is forgotten. Everybody thinks that everybody should know this, so somebody's obviously done it. And they didn't, and the patient dies. They took one example he gives. The mortality rate of this particular condition was 90% in this hospital. 9 out of 10 people were dying. And so they introduced a checklist to make sure that 6 things were done in proper sequence, and the mortality rate dropped to below 10%. Because always somebody was missing one of the essential ingredients. And they were very simple things. And so this idea, you can accomplish extraordinary things if you just make a list of everything that you need to do and follow your list. I told you I spoke for IBM. And the gentleman who brought me in to IBM was the senior director of training, and he was the one. The president of the company said, "I've heard about this guy. You should bring him in." So he brought me in, and I started to do training. And one day I called him up because he was my client, and they said, "Well, we're sorry, he's dead. He's dead. He's about 40 and healthy and nice guy." What happened? Well, you heard about that plane, that Delta plane that crashed in Dallas-Fort Worth last month. I said, yeah, he was on it. And everybody was killed. So I began reading about that accident, and they did a big investigation and so on. What they found was that the pilots got onto the plane. They had just had a good night out for dinner the night before. They got on the plane. They're all talking back and forth. Pilot, co-pilot, engineer, professionals, years of experience, and there's certain things you need to do to take off a plane. And you're doing this and everything else. And Bill, hey, wait, last night, did you see that light? They missed both. And the one thing was the flaps. The flaps have got to be up rather than down, because when they put the flaps up, the wind pushes down on the wing and brings up the plane. And as the plane went down the runway, when the plane lands, you put the flaps down so the plane will come down. And they forgot to put up the flaps. And what happened was the plane went down the runway and went faster and faster, and instead of taking off, it just started tumbling and probably killed everybody. One thing on the checklist, so simple. When you learn to fly your first little plane, 2-seater, for the first thing they tell you is flaps. You check the flaps, check the flaps, check the flaps. As you get to this point, check the flaps, turn the flaps, up the flap. When you're landing, check the flap, check the flap, check the flap. These guys had done it thousands and thousands of times, and they had the cockpit recorder. At the point they're supposed to check the flap, one turned to the other and said this, and I said, oh yeah, I was over there the other night, and the plane crashed and killed everyone. Just one. It's interesting today. Products are coming out at an incredible speed, but the most important thing you do is get a customer before you produce a product.
Right.
Is you go out to a customer and you say, we're thinking of producing this product that will do this. Will you buy it?
Mm-hmm.
And they say, yeah, I'd buy that. Then you reverse engineer and you start developing the product. So the rule now, it's a whole new insight into business. It's called customer development rather than product development.
Right.
All of business from the beginning of history has started with product development, assuming there's a market, doing some market testing and so on. But now they start with customer development. Get a customer who says, yes, I want that, I need it, I can use it, I will pay for it. And then you go back and you reverse engineer. Mm-hmm. It's changing the whole world.
Yeah. And in the startup world, because I also run a startup company, in startup world it's called, right now they call the whole movement Lean Startup. And this is exactly the same thing, that they first produce like a very simple mock-up of what they are going to do.
Minimum viable
product. And then they ship it for the first batch of customers and see if it actually...
all of business, yes.
Yeah.
Minimum viable product. I did a market test in my office. Sometimes you can do a market test of one person. But I was talking to a very, very accomplished woman who has been training in communications for 30 years or more for large companies. And she's been retired, sort of. She's in her 60s, but she's been retired for some years. Now she wants to come back and do a product that would be a CD that trains women, that teaches women how, and her first idea was it trains women how to be effective giving video presentations. Because she said, because she read that everything's going to video, Facebook, YouTube, and so on. And I said, I don't think that's a good product. I'm not a woman, but in my experience, there's very few women who are interested in learning how to be more effective on video. There may be some, but the question is, where are they? Who are they? And will they buy something? So I said, if you could go to teach people how to communicate, and you're going to focus on women, what would be a good message that you are capable of delivering? I said, how about when she talks, everybody stops and listens? Because that's what women want. Women want people to pay them serious attention when they talk. And when they talk, they want to be listened to. They want to be respected and listened to, whether it's a meeting or a one-on-one, especially with men. All right? And without losing their femininity, or without being aggressive or loud or anything else. She said, well, I don't know if there's a market for that. So I called my assistant, Sandy, just outside. I say, Sandy, we've got two products here. I said, which of these would you buy? So I told her the first one, how to appear on video. She said she has no interest in it. I said, I have 8 women working in my office, not one of them would want the product. And Sandy's a perfect example. I said, how about this other product? I said, about being persuasive, influential, respected. And people shut up when you start to talk. Everybody stops and listens. She said, I'd buy that too. I said, how much would you pay? She said, $25 for the CD. Mm-hmm. So I turned to her and I said, there's your market test.
Exactly.
That's the product you produce.
Yes.
Because we got one customer here. The reason I developed SSI, 1, now 2 and 3, is because of the incredible market response to the NBA. The interactive, the standing ovations over and over again. We have hit upon a teaching method here. This idea of teach interaction, teach interaction, teach interaction all day. It keeps people just like stepping on the accelerator of a car all day long. At the end of the day, everybody's exhilarated, and they've learned so much. It's our new program that we're offering now here in Finland. And but it's been market tested for 3 years in front of thousands of people of different nationalities all over the world, and it's got a 100% success rate. That's when you create the product when it's market.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this interview, for this wealth of knowledge.